As a small business owner, have you ever felt overwhelmed by the pressure of choosing the right hire or leading a team? Or have you ever found yourself tolerating a bad hire because you fear trying and failing again as you repeat the hiring process? If so, you're not alone, and you are in the right place. Welcome to the Growing Your Team podcast. The Growing Your Team podcast teaches business owners like you to expand your unique business by teaching you to master the hiring and team management process. Hiring and managing a team does not have to be a challenge. You just have to learn to do it right. And the Growing Your Team podcast teaches you how to become a confident leader who hires right every single time. Now, let's jump into the show where each episode you will learn tips on how to identify what type of help you need on your team, how to source amazing candidates, how to conduct interviews that lead you to your ideal team member, how to onboard successfully, and how to lead every person in your business so you have a team of rock stars who you are happy to pay every single paycheck. So let's jump in and teach you how to hire like a pro. Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, I have on guest Samantha Irwin. Samantha has over 25 years of experience and leadership and a dual background in middle school teaching and boutique hotel ownership. And this has uniquely positioned her to empower and educate business leaders and their frontline customer service staff. Organizations and businesses hire Samantha for engaging and inspiring keynote speeches and workshops. As the creator of the Power of People Academy and the Creating a Culture deck, she equips businesses to provide consistently exceptional customer experiences, fostering both thriving enterprises and fulfilled staff. Samantha's commitment extends to teaching business owners how to make their establishments preferred workplaces and favored customer destinations. In this conversation, Samantha and I are talking all about the customer service experience. Any one of your team members who works with a customer, whether it's a 30-second interaction or is the main point of contact for your clients, should understand the value of customer service and be highly skilled in the techniques. In this conversation, Samantha and I are talking about how to use the customer experience to determine what type of support you need for your team, and then how to properly train your team members so that way they're making every experience with the client one that makes the client want to return and enjoys being a customer of your company versus an experience that will turn a customer away. You and every one of your staff members that has potential to talk to a customer, see a customer, interact with a customer, should value the customer service experience. So let's jump into the conversation and learn why that is and how to do it. Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Growing Your Team podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty dang excited to be here, I have to say.
Yes, I'm so excited about today's conversation. But before we get into that, take a moment and introduce yourself and what you do.
Sure. My name is Samantha Irwin, owner of Kaizen Consulting. And people hire me for speaking engagements to speak on the power of their people. And specifically, brick and mortar hospitality business owners hire me or use the tools and training that I have to curate their customer experience, making sure that their team is trained to deliver consistently excellent customer service experiences. So it's my core is all about empowering people. Do you want me to tell you how I got here a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So my journey started. So I actually have my master's in education. Not that may imply I was a great student, but I wasn't. So I was able to relate to my students. And I taught middle school for 13 years and loved it. I loved that age. I taught or first grade 1 year and headed for the hills. I was like, you people are angels. Give me middle school any day. So
Which
that
most
was,
people would probably say the opposite. I think a lot of things are like, oh my gosh, the middle school years are the worst to teach.
I think so.
And having a middle schooler, I can see why people would say that.
Yeah, oftentimes when I'm speaking to groups and I say that, I do a pregnant pause and I can see who in the audience has children that are that age. And they look at me with like this shock and horror. I said, you heard me right. Yeah, this is true. I love them. They're just so weird. They're so fun. And that's where I first really learned about learning styles, how to motivate, inspire, challenge respectfully, and they were kids, help them achieve goals. So really step into what their goals were, their greatness. It was very fun. Loved it. But I didn't continue that. I always was interested in business. So I jumped full time into business ownership after I resigned or retired from teaching, not retired, resigned. And my husband and I purchased a boutique hotel. It was built so we're in Oregon. And the hotel is built in 1907, had 3 stories, beautiful brick, 21 rooms. It was empty. There was no furniture when I walked in the back door. Has an acre of grounds that needed landscaping, located in a town, population 600 at the time. And to note, I think people find this interesting, 80% of my staff came from that small town. And this was in 2006. It hadn't been open consistently as a hotel since the 40s. So definitely building from the ground up. And after a lot of restoration and development, turned that into a boutique hotel, wedding, and event center, and a destination, for travelers. So that was where I was able to grab all of that middle school teaching and apply it to adults, and really understanding how important my team is to the success of a growing business and serving my customers well. Parent needs came sooner than we expected, so I had to sell it after 10 years, and I got asked to do some consulting. And so there I am. So I create tools to support people to deliver consistently excellent customer service experiences. And there you go. That's where I am now. That's my passion and my mission.
Yeah. It's one of those things, I think, like owning a hotel, it's one of those things you realize, hopefully not the hard way. Hopefully it's just one of those things you realize how important the customer service experience is. Because when you have people that are traveling and they're looking for this kind of like, I would say, magical stay, like people that stay at boutique hotels, it's not like you're just booking at the random Marriott in town and you're just like, okay, it's just a place to sleep. Like I'm a person who loves booking boutique hotels, and I'm doing it because it gives me a different experience. So I have different expectations when I walk into that place and I interact with people than I do at the big chain hotels.
That is, yep. We could finish the podcast right now because yes, 110%. I agree with you. And having the hotel in a location where, there wasn't Niagara Falls for people. They were coming for the things that we offered, which was a disconnect, a getaway. And that, honestly, curating the customer experience and empowering and training my staff to deliver and teaching them the people skills to make guests feel welcomed was key in a couple areas. It was key in my sanity to be able to walk away or step away from day-to-day operations because it's my baby.
Right.
And that was a big step for me to give up that control, but it was key to be able to doing that confidently. And it was also very, very, very important in increasing my staff retention. Because when people understand that they're part of something that's bigger, it's not just checking people in, checking people out, or making coffee or making the beds. When they understand and really understand how impactful that they are to the experience, whether they're front desk or housekeeping, they stay, they perform, they're more loyal. It solves a load of problems that owners that I work with are always complaining about, like, retention or making sure that they're engaged or, all those things. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So those positions that are those customer service type positions, even if they're not labeled customer service, but let's just define customer service as anyone who's interacting with guests or even has the potential to be interacting with guests they have that customer service part of their role, creates an entire experience. And I think sometimes as business owners, when I talk to people, especially the small business owners, are like, I just need help. They view sometimes these positions as those low wage positions. And they're just like, just put people in there. People just need to do a good job. And then they complain because people don't do a good job. And sometimes I was like, well, what did you invest in this position? And they're like, invest in the position. It's a minimum wage position. What more do I need to do? And I'm just like, well, that's the reason they're not performing well. That's the reason they're not staying, is they're not investing. And I think one of the things we need to look at is investing isn't just salary. It isn't just what you pay them, because whether it's a minimum wage position or a higher level position, you need to invest in them in other ways, including training, making them feel valued and part of the team, and other things that say, yes, this company cares about me, so I'm going to care about my role and how I am impacting the company.
Yes, I agree. And when I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I love listening to your podcast and what you're doing is solving a really important problem for business owners, because whether I'm speaking to 30 or 300, no one ever says, I was really passionate about training and supporting people, so I decided to open a coffee shop or a boutique hotel. No, never. No, people are excited and passionate about the thing or the product or the service. And then you need the people to get it. And you need those people in order to grow and scale that business. So I love that you're solving the problem of helping staff and people, to grab the right staff and then how to train and support them. When I'm speaking, one of my keynote talks that I do, it's about a perception change. And you touched on it earlier. So when I'm going into my local businesses here, and especially when I know the owners and I'm greeted by someone, or maybe I'm not even greeted by a staff member, or they're engaged with their coworkers and they're not really paying attention, or I've seen them a lot and they know I love gluten-free something or other, and yet they don't point it out in the case, right? It drives me crazy. I think automatically, I'm like, you don't understand your power and your influence and your impact. You don't understand how much impact you have on the bottom line of the business and on the trajectory of the customer's day. They are the throughput line for that. They have incredible power and influence. And you're right, whether it's a temp job or their dream job, they have the same power and influence. And one of the mindset shifts that they love to challenge people on is, oftentimes the customers maybe think those jobs are like, meh, not so great, low wage, not that important. And it's sad when the owners think that. But honestly, a lot of the times the workers themselves think that. And I want to turn that on its head, because that is not true. Those people have an enormous amount of influence when they're trained with the right skills.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's so powerful. Samantha, you have a program. And I remember when I was going through the program, it's like one of the things that stood out to me at the very beginning was, instead of just saying, all right, customer service matters because here's the impact you make on the organization, you started off with making people think about the customer service experiences that they experienced, the positive and the negative. And from that, it kind of, for me, flipped the light bulb on. It's just like, oh yeah. And I already knew this, but it's just kind of that reminder of, I have the power when I'm interacting with other people to impact their experience. And I want my experiences to be good when I'm interacting with people, when I am the customer. So I should be striving at every point in time to make sure people are having good experiences with me, because that is the power that I hold.
Yes, I'm so glad that you said that. Makes my heart so happy that you got that. And she's referencing the Power of People Academy, which is an online training course that it's easily accessible for if you have a team and you have people who interact face to face with customers. that's your training program right there. Because like we talked about, you're excited about your product or service, not necessarily about training people skills. So that's one of the two easy low-hanging tools if I'm not coming into doing training that people can get. So you made my heart very happy to tell me that was your takeaway. So that's my intention. So yay. Excellent. Thank you. I'm ruining people. I really want to ruin people. I want to ruin them everywhere so that they go in. I saw this with my own staff, which was a lot of fun. When we did training consistently, they would go in and they would come back and they would be expecting different service, or they would say, "Oh my gosh, the bathroom or the handle or whatever." It's raising their awareness about how much impact they have, which is so much fun, especially when it's positive.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but one of the things that I heard once was in Disney when they're training their cleaning crew, the ones that are cleaning the room, part of what they say is like part of that training, it's lay on the bed and look at everything you see. This is one of the views that the customer, the client, and the vacationer is going to have when they're in this room. So those are the things you need to look at to make sure you're cleaning. Where a lot of times we look eye level, we might be looking down to the ground, but we're looking up when we're enjoying that hotel room, when we wake up in bed in the morning. And it's just kind of like, put yourself in that customer's shoes.
That is perfect example. That's perfect. I might use that in the next talk. The one that I use when I'm talking about, when I'm doing a workshop or teaching about the customer journey, is I have my own proprietary map, and there's a specific reason why I make it in a circular shape, but every touch point matters. And you're right that like even in the bathroom, I may go into a coffee shop or a brick and mortar, and they might, or a restaurant, and they may get the best ratings from the health department in their kitchen. I'm not going in the kitchen. I go into the bathroom though. So, and what's behind the door, right? You like lay on the bed, sit on the toilet. Come through the front door. Come through the front door and experience your business like a customer, because we oftentimes go in the back door or the side door, but that is so much fun. I love, actually, that's one of the strategy sessions that I conduct with business owners, is curating their customer experience, and we walk through each touch point and do exactly what you're talking about. It's very fun and impactful.
Yeah, like I love that. Like I was just thinking, this is a personal example, but at our house, our driveway is off the alleyway in the back. So we're always entering the back. Our front landscaping right now is horrible because the fact that we don't see it on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's just every once in a while, we'll go out the front door for something and we're like, oh my gosh, this looks horrible. Like, why do we let it look this way? And it's part of that thing. It's like, because we don't see it, we forget about it. So I think it is really important to think about, what is that customer perspective? Because you're always looking at things differently. If you run a coffee shop, you're always looking from the counter out, but the customer's looking at whatever's behind you.
Yes. I just did one with a woman who has a mobile coffee, or not a mobile, what is it, little kiosk, the drive-through ones. And we went outside and I said, okay, we're in a car. What do you want me? Here's the first step in our customer journey, the second step in our customer journey. What do you want me as a customer to see, hear, know, and do? What's your mission? And it lit me up to see her revelations and her ideas, and what happened on her face when she went, oh, I could this and this and this and this. And it all is about enhancing that customer's experience. And she went out and redid a whole bunch of things right away, which was very fun, very fun. Yeah. And I wanted to say, because you work with a lot of people who are hiring for those front-facing positions.
Yes.
One of the things that I burned inside my eyelids, it got more burned when I didn't do it. And then I was like, okay, never again. Hire personality, train skill. Because hospitality is a gift. Like, you're gifted in math or you're gifted in art. Hospitality is also a gifting, and we can teach people, I can teach them how to recognize that, so that when they're out, they can poach or hire somebody that has those basic skills. But we also need to train them and continue to develop those skills. But hire personality, train skill. not the other way around. Doesn't work.
So I will challenge that a little bit, that there are some skills that we need to be looking for, because they need to show that they have the capability of doing the job. But I think like some of the stuff where it kind of crosses into that skill/personality type thing is, one, customer service in a lot of ways is a skill. We should be looking for basic customer service skills. So maybe they don't know everything yet because they haven't gone through a course like Samantha's and everything, but they need to show that they enjoy working with people. So how do we determine if they enjoy working with people? There are things that we need to make sure, okay, if that front desk person needs to be highly organized, does this person at least show us that they can be organized? Because there's some things that are harder to teach, but do they need to know how to use the computer system that we're using on the job right now? No, they don't necessarily need to know that. Do they need to show that they're going to be able to learn it? That learning tech things and new software as they move into new environments is something that they're capable of? Yes. But yeah, like you want to make sure that that person who's going to be in that position is going to be able to represent your company the way you want them to. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I think we just defined skill. So I think those skills are in hospitality, like they are to be developed. So
Yeah.
I think we're agreeing we'd have a little
Yeah.
semantics.
Yeah. Just a little bit
like,
there. Like,
yeah. But those people who have the gift of hospitality are the people that make you feel welcome. They're the people that you go into the grocery store and you pick their line, or it's one of your relatives that when you walk in, you feel like, oh God, I'm home, I'm welcomed. They light up right away when you see them. Yeah.
yeah.
It's really important to making people feel, when you're front facing position, making your customers, your guests, your members feel valued and welcomed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely right. I was recently working with a client where one of the positions we were hiring for was their front desk person.
Mhm.
And it was, okay, well, what are the scenarios that this person's most likely going to have to face? Okay, they're going to work with kids and that are coming in for their appointments, because this client, their business dealt with children.
Mhm.
Okay, so the person's going to has to be able to like working with children, possibly has experience working with children. It was also a facility where the children they were working with had some level of disability. Can they understand? And some of the disabilities could be things where it was physical. You could also be working with children that are neurodivergent. So they might act differently than the quote unquote normal child.
Right.
But how do you handle that? Because you have to have the right personality and everything to understand that this child having an outburst isn't that they're just throwing a tantrum. It is that maybe they need different soothing and talking to in order to relax or adapt to their environment or feel comfortable there. So it's like some of those things is thinking about what type of interaction is typical here. So you make sure that you're bringing in the right person that is prepared for that type of environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And then continually training that, because each person, I think that's something that I see a lot of business owners I work with, they've got all this institutional knowledge and there's assumptions that they make about how people should or would or will act or behave. And it's the mindset shift that I had to make was just like, okay, this is something we need to continually revisit, reinforce, because what gets attention gets done, right? So if we are only during our staff meetings, if we're only training, like, okay, here's how you make the bed, here's how you recycle, here's how you do the tasks, then that's what they're going to understand as a priority, is the task. And so when the customer comes in, they're going to be focused on the task because that's what they've learned is important. But it's not that the task is never more important. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's mostly never more important than the person who's standing in front of you. The task typically, I would say 90+% of the time can wait. So yeah, that drip irrigation, teaching people how impactful that they are is critical to retaining customers, to even retaining staff, because they understand how important they are. Otherwise, they're just like looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think like I was just thinking of an example from my experience with when I was in college, I worked at a restaurant. And during this experience, there was this couple that came in with their friends every Friday night.
Mm.
And typically everyone just sighed when they came in because they're like, oh my gosh, them again, because they kept coming in, but they complained every Friday. And typically part of their meal ended up being comped and stuff like that and everything. But no one wanted to wait on them because they're like, they're such pain in the butt clients. They're pain in the butt, people to wait on. And finally, and they kept saying they would always put sometimes some more seasoned servers because they're like, hopefully they'll get it right. Hopefully they'll get it right. But they were going in this mindset of the customer is going to complain. The customer is going to be upset about something. There's nothing I can do is going to be right. And so one day I was assigned to wait on this couple and their friends that came in that day. And all I did was listen to them. All right, they wanted their meal a certain way. They wanted some things on the side. They wanted this. And I, knowing that they were a customer that typically complains, I was just very diligent about writing down everything that they said, making sure I was asking follow-up questions, being proactive of going over to check on if they needed anything, things like that. It was one of the first times they didn't complain in their entire time of coming there because I knew it was important for me to make that customer experience versus like the customer leading the customer experience for me. And so they started being, when they came back, they would request me because they knew I was going to create that good experience for them. And I'm not saying every time was perfect. There could be, I think there was one time where I did forget to bring out the one thing that they wanted on the side. But because I created that overall good experience, they forgave it. And it was just like, hey, Jamie, can you remember to bring us over that extra thing of cream cheese or whatever it was? And it's like, yes, I got you. Like, here you go. And it was just turning that experience around. It's like, I need to provide them a good experience from the start, no matter if they're a difficult client or not.
Mm-hmm. I love that example. As much as business owners don't like to hear this, 70% of buying experiences are based on how a customer feels they're being treated. That's one of the questions in the creating a culture deck that I'll tell you about a little bit later. 70% on how they feel they're being treated. That's what the statistics show. What we think is that, oh no, people come back because I have a great product or a service. Actually, statistics show it's based on how they feel they're being treated. And that's a soft skill to train your people. So just like you talked about with your example, you're making them feel valued and important, and they will, right? They will come back and they'll bring and refer their friends, even if they had like something messed up on their order, because you're making them feel valued and seen and important. If it's the other way around and you have the best meal and it's perfect, but yet their server is disengaged and makes people feel like they're an annoyance and they're rude to them, they're going elsewhere. They're not going to refer. They're more likely to be a bad review. People will forgive like a mediocre mocha if they have a great service experience and it doesn't work the other way around. Your example is a perfect example for that. They're very powerful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it ties back to like, one of the things we talk a lot about in this podcast is signs that it's time to hire a team member. And one of the signs we say is you're starting to lose customers due to the customer service experience. Yeah. So it is one of those things we talk about, how you're making customers feel, that they feel like they're no longer important. They feel like you don't value their business. And so they take their business elsewhere. Yep. So we're not talking about things all the time like, we're dropping the ball completely. We're messing up on everything we do for them, but we're just delivering it in a way where the customer doesn't feel valued, where they're like, okay, maybe, and sometimes when it comes to that sign where it's time to hire, you used to provide something differently than you provide now because you're busy. And so we always say like, that's one of those times to get help in that customer service experience or get help with other stuff. So that way you can provide a better customer service experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We could talk all day about this. We're like preaching to the choir. I love it. I love what you do. People are extremely impactful, and whether it's a they feel like it's their temp job or their dream job, they have the same amount of impact and influence on, well, the trajectory of their customer's day, which impacts their community, and on the financial success or mediocrity of their business
Yeah.
and their tips
Right.
or
Right.
bonuses. They have a lot of power and influence when they're trained and they understand it.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit. So before you were talking about that example of getting in the car and driving around, it's like, what do you want the customer to do and see and all those things, and talking about that customer journey. One of the things I think is really important when it comes to hiring is you then get to see the things that you need to hire for that maybe you weren't thinking about. Because if you're like, wow, okay, let's go back to the outside of the building. One of the things I want them to see is really good landscaping, but you don't have time to be up to date on all the landscaping and going out and pulling weeds and trimming things when it's maybe middle of summer and it's ridiculously hot out. That's one thing you say, this is important for me to spend money on because it impacts that first impression. I need to hire someone to be there at the front desk versus being like, well, I can do it because someone only comes in every once in a while and I'll hear the bell ring and I'll come in from my office in the back and help that person out. But there might become a time in your business where that becomes a lot more frequent and you're always getting interrupted in tasks where it's worth your dollars to hire someone just to sit there. Like one of my first jobs with a corporation when I was in college, it was actually right as I graduated. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do yet. I was a part-time receptionist at an ad agency. I didn't do anything but answer the phones and greet people when they came in. And I was kind of like the late day shift. So I think I was there from like 3:30 to 5, and it was quiet. Or maybe I was like 4 to 6 or something like that. It was the end of the day and it was super quiet. And I answered the phones maybe for the entire 2.5 to 3 hours I was there, maybe 3 phone calls the entire time. Maybe twice a week, someone would come up to the desk, but it was important for someone to be there. So when that phone did ring, it got answered. It was important for someone to be there at the desk. So when someone did get off that elevator, someone was there to greet them. And they understood that, yeah, I might be sitting around a lot of the time reading a book or a magazine because there was nothing else for me to do with my time. But the impact I was making by being there when someone needed me was worth every dollar.
Yeah, it makes a difference, especially if you're in a service-based business.
Yeah.
That training people to interact with people it's key. It's key. When I had the hotel, we made a lot of mistakes hiring and training, and I learned a lot. And so I honed it in and was able to keep and retain, see people like step into their amazingness. And I moved from desperate to desirable. This is one of the workshops that I do is how do you move from desperate to desirable in the hiring department? And so that people, like, I think your message is similar, so that people are lining up because they want to work for you because they know it's such a great place. Toward one of the things that I had put in like a job description, part of it was that, they had to have their server's license, their liquor license. These were basic requirements. And there was an online training at the time called Oregon Q Care. They don't have it anymore, but it was free, 3-hour online, very corny, very cheesy, but correct, and full of why these people were so important to a hospitality service. And what I found is it gave my team common language from the get-go. And it catapulted the level of professionalism that when I onboarded a new employee, they got up to speed so much faster, and they were able to perform on the people stuff. So that's not available anymore. And so that was one of the things during the pandemic that I created because I see as such a need. That's the Power of People Academy you referenced earlier. But teaching those people skills from how to make a good first impression, because there's a formula, there's a way to do it, to sales versus service. How do you transform your mind from, oh, I'm selling, to no, this is actually service, to your top 20, the Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule, to the last module, because this is a nod to my middle school days. It's called Congratulations, You Screwed Up. And there's a specific way to fix mistakes because they will happen. And so that it changes the narrative from, oh my gosh, I got there for a weekend and I booked this room number 15 and they double booked and they didn't have a place for me to stay, period. To, oh my gosh, I booked for the weekend. I booked room 15. I was looking forward to it. I got there, they double booked my stay. And you know what they did? They booked my room at this other, and they paid for it. And then the second night, they paid for my room again. And then we had treats, and then they gave us a gift certificate. Oh my gosh, these people are amazing. That's the power of being able to train. How do you correctly fix those mistakes so that it transforms your customers from complainers to advocates?
Right. Yeah. I love that. And I think like it's so important to have that there in that module and in that training and everything. And for business owners to think about that is, I hear it a lot. It's like, my employee screwed up, I want to fire them. And I always say, well, are you perfect? I'm pretty sure you probably made a mistake this week too. Like, right?
Oh, that's
I'm
such
like,
a good.
I'm like, when's the last time you went to go send an email with an attachment and you forgot to attach the attachment? Like,
Oh, dang.
we make mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
we miss a meeting accidentally. It's maybe not something we do all the time. Maybe it's once a year. Like, things happen. We're
Yeah.
not perfect. So why are we expecting our team members to be perfect? Human
Oh,
nature,
word.
we are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like, what do you do when a mistake happens? And I feel like that is so powerful because if you're a company that's always like, you made a mistake, so you're the worst employee ever because you made a mistake, what's going to happen when your team members make a mistake? They're going to do everything they can to hide that mistake.
Yes.
And
Or shift blame.
or
And
shift the
hide.
blame. And
Yeah.
none of that is any positive things. There's no positive outcome from that. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're going to go and then see that review and you're like, what happened? Like, we could have fixed that. We could have solved that, but your team member didn't tell you. When you create this thing of like, okay, mistakes happen, I'm going to empower you to know how to fix it within a certain, like, here's what you can do to fix it. If it needs anything more than this, you need to escalate to management so they can give approval and things like that. But it's just like, it happens. It creates an environment where people are then more likely to tell you when things happen. I managed a team back in corporate where it was that environment where people were like, all right, Jamie, this happens. Here's what I did to fix it. We're all good now, but I want you to know about it in case there's a question that comes up. You're not blindsided. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't get mad. Now, if it was a mistake where it's just like, okay, this mistake seems to be happening a lot, then it's like, okay, does this person need training? Or do we need to put something into our processes and procedures or things like that so this mistake doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a one-off mistake, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so powerful. I echo 100%. I love that you like, here's a mirror.
Yeah.
Such
Yeah.
a gentle
Start there. Like,
correction.
we're not perfect.
We will mess up. We will. That was
Yeah.
one of the things it was really interesting when I was training my staff. I had these two amazing women that were on my front desk, and it was a busy weekend. I was really trying to get out of the hotel on a Friday. And I can't remember why this guest was annoyed. I mean, it was in the country. Maybe she'd left her window open. She had bugs in there. I don't know. You're in the country. You're going to have bugs if you leave your window open. Hello. But for some reason, she was a little bit of a grumpus. And I recall standing at the front desk, literally with my stuff in my arm to go. And they were both perplexed, like, well, what do we do? And I thought, okay, we've gone over this so many times. Why are they not getting it? I didn't want to come back and have to fix a problem. That's not taking a vacation when you're worried about, oh, great, I'm going to have a mountain of crap when I come back. No, I want them to be empowered. And I recall that I had to just I was like, okay, I got to shift this lesson and training it in a different way, it's really important to try to come in from the back door, the window, the chimney, whatever, to get the lesson created. People learn in different ways and they need a different amount of times before it will really stick. And I said, okay, let's say this happened to you. What's going to make you happy and satisfied? And they're like, okay, moving into a different room. I said, okay, great, do that. Now, what would you not expect? And they sort of got giddy. And I said, yeah, what would you not expect? Because I had to take them away from the situation. I realized they were nervous about spending my money. That's what they were thinking. And they said, well, if we got some of this great chocolate cake that you make, that would be fun. And I said, do that. And I said, what else? And then they were getting excited and they were like, well, like if I got a bottle of wine, I said, great, do that. And they were so excited. I said, goodbye, I'm leaving. And that's what they did. And the woman was super excited. But you had touched on giving staff like an amount when you were telling your story, giving them an amount or a box to play in.
Some
like guidelines. You have this much to fix these mistakes and exceed expectations. So have fun. Then when that does happen, you typically don't abuse it. Then during a staff meeting, to utilize that experience, talk about it. And it's an example for other people that says so much. Not only does it teach them how you fix things, but it's communicating that it's okay. You're not getting fired. You're human. We can make this better. It's all okay. And there's a lot of anxiety with staff not wanting to mess up, and taking that pressure off is a big relief, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few things that I want to talk about with that is like, so first, like one of my clients, this is the reason why I say you got to set some sort of boundaries. As I had a client once who called me up and they wanted to fire their team member because something happened and their team member went to solve it for the client, but the way they solved it gave liability to the company.
Oh.
And he was like, my company could be at risk for what she did. And really, I was like, okay, well, when did you train the team member on this? And he was like, well, she should just know. And I was like, no, you know, because you're the business owner and you go through different things with compliance and things like that. But what you're talking about doesn't typically touch her role. So she doesn't know that this compliance thing exists. And it was something because they were using they were performing services in someone else's facility. So it was like what they could and could not do in order to be able to keep that contract and be able to do their services in this other facility. And so it's like, you have to train your team members of, you could do anything up to this. If it's anything outside of this, we can't do it because XYZ, or we need approval or things like that. And just so they can be empowered, like that person did, she felt empowered to solve the issue, but she didn't know the limits. So what she did potentially caused a bigger issue for the company. The customer was happy, but for the company, he was like, oh my gosh, we could get in major trouble for this. So make sure you set those boundaries, things like that. Send a bottle of wine, some chocolate cake. Great. But if you're like, oh my gosh, that's going to bankrupt my company, we can't do that, but we can do this that maybe is a little smaller or things like that. It just creates that thing. It's like, okay, here's what you can do. You have this limit, you have this budget. We need to keep in mind, maybe it's not even a per incident budget. We have so much money per week that I'm budgeting towards these types of things. So use it sparingly, know how to use it in accordance to what the customer is complaining about and things like that. And the other thing, example I just wanted to share like with this is, once again, I don't know if this is completely true or not, but I feel like my family's been on the receiving end of it, is going back to Disney. Can you tell we used to go to Disney a lot with the kids? We're a Florida family. I heard once that almost every Disney employee in the parks has the ability to do so much and like pay for things for like 4 customers. Like there's a budget there, and every level of employee has access to this. So it's not just like, oh, a manager can come and buy a kid an ice cream. It's like, all right, you see this kid that's upset, you have XYZ power to go and do this. And it's like little things. Some of it doesn't cost any money. It's like simple things like back when they used to have their old fast pass system. I was there with my daughter one day and my littlest, and it was just her and I at the park. And every time we went to the park, we'd measure her to see if she was tall enough to go on the one ride, because she so badly wanted to ride it with her sister. And we finally measure her and she's just tall enough. And the line was probably like 2 hours long at this point in time. And we were talking to the guy and I was just like about it. We're just like, I'm just measuring her to see if she's tall enough. So the next time we come back, we know to prioritize it and possibly get a fast pass for it and all this stuff. And we started chatting and she started chatting. He's like, well, why don't you guys go on it now? And I'm just like, we're not waiting 2 hours. Like it's hot out. Like it's getting close to nap time. Like we're going to have to head home soon. And he was just like, well, here's some fast passes, go ahead in the line. And it was just like, he was able to just make those things that were in his power to impact the customer experience in a different way. Like to say like, wow, when we went home, it was like, guess what happened to us today? We were able to skip that 2-hour line because we were having a conversation with an employee and he decided to do something extra.
Yes, I love that because people like something extra, whether it's an extra coffee bean because they know you like them on your mocha, whatever. People love it. And I mean, it doesn't, you're right. It doesn't. Oh, I'm getting excited. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be a huge expenditure to make people feel welcome. And it could be a thank you note with your name. It could be, a compliment like, "Oh, your necklace is super pretty. I love that necklace." Or, "Where'd you get those earrings?" Or, there's a way to make compliments so it's not like a come on, and that's a whole lesson in of itself. But there's an art and a craft to it. But yes, you're right. Seeing people, it's about, I think we can distill it down to a couple words. It's being curious about your customer. Because when you're curious, you start to learn and notice things. And then when you start to learn and notice things, you can either fix part of their experience or you can enhance part of their experience. Like, if they come in with a dog, you draw, if it doesn't matter if you're a crappy drawer, you draw a little dog and say, or give them a bone or whatever it is. Those things are so much fun when I do workshops, to work with staff. I remember actually, it was a restaurant that I worked with, and we were working with her staff, and one of the trainings that we had done was about curating this experience. And so I took the staff and we walked through like where like the front door of your house, we walked through with staff where the front door was instead of where they came in. And it was so much fun and so rewarding to see these young women and men that are servers walk through, think about things. They got it. They thought about it and they made immediate changes right then. So talk about checking a box for feeling like you're valuable. That the owner said, "Yes, go ahead and do that. That's improving the customer's experience right now. Go ahead and do it. Do it right now." And so then they're ruined and they start to think about it in the other areas, not just in the entrance, right? That it's so much fun to see those light bulbs come on, see people stepping into how much power and influence that they actually have. It's makes my day. Makes my day.
Yes. All right, Samantha, I feel like we could talk about this forever, but we are coming to the end of our
I
time.
do too.
So how can everybody get in touch with you?
And first of all, thank you for having me and for what you do. I listen to your podcast and I love it. I love it. It's very valuable. And I even included it in one of your podcast episodes in my email the other day. So as a shout out. So people can get a hold of me, whether they're looking for the Power of People Academy, the Hospitality Boot Camp, which is a 6 modules video course. I always recommend people go through it together as a team first. And then when there's a new person, you onboard and they go through it. And it, like you had mentioned, it connects the dots for people. So that, or the Creating a Culture deck, which is drip irrigation, weekly content that you help, that it's quotes or stats that help your staff understand their power and influence, their impact. Any of that, or speaking, my website. That's easiest, kaizen.zone. So www, whatever, Kaizen, KAIZEN.zone, ZONE. No .com, just a .zone, a little different. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, we'll have all those links at the show notes over at growingyourteam.com for this episode. All right. Last question. We've all had leaders or managers that have stood out to us. Think of a leader or manager that has stood out to you and share one thing about them.
I love this question. And actually, I kept trying to think, no, a leader. But each time I would come back to this question, a woman came into my mind when we had the hotel and I was first starting out and I wasn't at the front desk all the time and we weren't even opened all the time, right? We were still doing restoration. I was not very great at returning phone calls promptly. So we were playing phone tag for a while and it was an older woman. She was coming with her group and she said, finally, when we got on the phone together, I'm like, "Hey, we finally made it." And I'm excited, like, "Oh, funny. Haha. We just had this little back and forth a lot of times over a number of days." She kind of stopped me in my tracks and she said, "I have never had a more difficult time trying to give somebody my money." And I just went, oh, it was like somebody just stabbed me in the leg. And I thought, Oh my gosh. And I didn't make an excuse. I just used it as a lesson and thought, okay, don't make an excuse because she's not looking for one. She just wants to vent and have her problem solved. And so I apologized and then I course corrected and thought, this is important. I need to change practices with my staff and with myself so that this doesn't happen again. But her comment, it was very gently given, but it was extremely impactful. And the result of the lesson was don't make excuses, acknowledge the problem. Like I teach there's 3 things to do to fix a mess up. And then how do we exceed her expectations so that when she does come, she's very excited to come back. So that was a really, really important lesson. Don't make excuses, just fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also one of those things that is very important is when people are interacting with your business, they want to give you their money. So make it easy for them. So
how many contractors have you called and they don't call you back? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I want to say this back to people. It's hard to give you my money right now. You need to call me back.
Right. Or they have some like big complicated like payment process like after the fact. And you're like, just send me an invoice and make it easy for me to give you my money. Like I'm like, don't you want to get paid? Like I want to pay you.
Yes. Or or phone trees. I'm like, oh my word. I don't want to go through the whole phone tree. Just skip to the end. I just want to get to the thing. Yes.
That's
a whole nother episode.
All right. Well, we had to jump off. So thank you so much, Samantha, for joining us today on the Growing Your Team podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love it.
And that wraps up this episode of the Growing Your Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss new episodes. And if your favorite podcast app has the ability, leave a review and let us know what you love about the show. As you wait for the next episode, be sure to follow Growing Your Team on Instagram at Growing Your Team, or head on over to growingyourteam.com to access more resources and learn how growing your team can support you as you master the art of hiring.